Oh, here we are. My old stomping ground. Right, Springer Station. A lot of PvPers have called this home. A lot of us have died here, killed here. We've all had fun laughs. We've all had good fights. We've all had bad fights. We've always dealt with cheaters, stackers, AK, etc. But majority of the time, I've had really good fights here. I mean, there's different clans that have been involved that I was involved with or fought with, etc. Like EDW, for example, or single people like Lethal Farms, one of the best PvPers I've ever known. Right alongside Piffles and JC and etc. Burn Bush. There's tons of them. I couldn't sit here and explain everybody. But that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to share with you my ideas and the reason why I pretty much stopped playing City 6 and the reason why I'm very disappointed in the game. Not only in the game itself or the devs, but how they implemented the work, like the mechanics in the game and how terrible they really, really are. Of course, I want to take you a little sightseeing, some of the whole stuff we've seen, like the refuge here. This is a lot of PvPers know this route. They go here, get their food for the next fight, next day, etc. But how did 76 fail so massively? Not only in the PvP side, which is fine. We understand that they don't really care about us. Most PvPers know that. That's why when the meta shifts, everybody kind of shifts with it, and they just make up their own way of doing it. Whether their build be slightly different than the others, that's normal. I just happened to hit really heavy when melee was the meta, and I was a melee player. And that's the reason why I got known for a while, because I was generally a nice person to people, try to help people, etc. But this is where I believe 76 went wrong. I'm sorry if you're a PvE player, you're passive. I'm sorry, your playstyle should not exist. Not in the game that was started off as a PvP game. The game was implemented with no NPCs. You were the NPC, technically, for lack of better terminology. You created your storyline, and you created the game as you saw fit. Now, events and everything, there's nothing wrong with events, their own day ops, doing that stuff for grind, to get special plans, or doing Foshnot to get your masks. There's nothing wrong with that. But my biggest issue is there's no longevity in the game doing that. Not really. And there's a limited pool of stuff that's just, I'm sorry, when the game goes away, your jackalope, your glowing deathclaw, your glowing scorched beast, all that, it's completely useless. It has no value whatsoever. And I understand people like that. They have like to have a little bragger right. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not knocking you for it. I just find it redundant that they took this game that could have been so much more. There could have been New Vegas or 3 to an extent, but instead of NPCs being a reactionary to you, it was other people, which was the idea from the beginning. Because passive mode didn't exist when the game came out. None of that stuff existed. It was you against everybody else, and who you happen to align yourself with or be friends with just happened. That's the reason why VF or ARC or the Enclave or BWB exist. Like-minded people who group together to help each other in the game. Whether it be fighting, events, resources, doesn't really matter. The workshops are my biggest issue. I know it's like, why workshops your biggest issue? Well, the reason being is they're terribly implemented and they're pretty much useless once you get not even a high level. You can be level 100 and to be honest, they're useless. They don't give out enough resources for what you do with them. They're not worth it. Like this workshop right here is probably one of the most useful I know of, but this one is not, but not for resources. This is where I know a lot of builders use to come and try out their new builds. They try out something new. They don't want to do it at their camp and break stuff down. They can come here, knock it out, try it out, see what it looks like, see if it implements well the way they want it, if they can make it float, etc. And then, boom, they take that, blueprint the bare bones, and they go to their own camp and build it. I mean, I know a ton of builders that did that. A lot of people who glitched. I personally did it somewhat myself when I was duping Collectron camps like a year ago or better. And I was giving them away for free. But, that was just me. But that's why my biggest issue in this game is the PvP side has been completely negated, just completely avoided. But what you got in that, if you don't like PvP, cool. But what happened after that was you got a watered down survival game. If you are a level 300 or better, you should never die in PvE. Ever. The only way you should die in PvE is if maybe radiation with the ghouls, that's kind of omitted, but maybe fall into a fissure site. But as far as like fighting enemies, normal, you should never die. Ever. No enemy in this game does enough damage to literally kill you. I don't ever have that issue ever. Even I'm not in PA either doing that. I don't do PvE in armor. To really, it's just redundant. Maybe if I'm going for like a kill record, like kill an Earl or Queen really fast, etc. Yeah, sure, but that's about it. There's no reason to wear PA. Not wasting my fusion cores to go around shooting ghouls and scorch and dead claws. It's just they don't do enough damage to matter. Because the right build will make you pretty much invincible in this game, and that's the reason why I kind of find it mundane. That's why a lot of people who in game either traders, PvPers, or builders. That's your three choices, really. There's nothing else to do. I mean, what you gonna do? You gonna go do, safe and sound for the 200th time? You're gonna go do Moonshine Jamboree for the 200th time and get some magic moonshine and stuff you don't, a gulper smacker that you don't want, that you're gonna break down immediately or throw them around if you don't have Fallout first. What else is there to do? So, this is my idea. The workshop should have been faction oriented. Since they already exist, all factions exist already. Enclave, BOS, Raiders, etc. They already exist. The players themselves did that without anybody telling them to do it. They did it on their own. So I honestly believe that should have been implemented from the get-go. That these workshops, instead of just owning them for resources, they could have been so much more. And let's discuss that real quick. When it comes to the workshops, this is the way I believe they should have been implemented and how they should have worked. When you load into a server, you should have been able to pick between 3 different factions, or maybe 4. The obviously being the Enclave, the Brotherhood of Steel, and the Raiders. Maybe even Foundations as a 4th one, like Settlers. As you played the game, when you loaded into a server, you had to pick one of those factions to be aligned with. Now, you can make your own groups outside, like Discord or just PlayStation Chat, But when you load in that server, you would pick your faction. Or maybe even possibly pick your faction before you even play the game. Let's say by level 20, you picked your faction. I think that'd be a good level to pick, like which way you're going. And if you wanted to, you could change your faction every once in a while, maybe once a month or once a week. You can change your faction. Probably once a week would probably be the better term because some people, their friends groups change. Not always, but I mean, I know that's a thing. Sometimes friend groups change and you change who you hang around with. But that's the reason why I believe that should have been implemented at the start of the game. The workshops are the biggest catalyst for how that would work. If you owned a workshop in, say, Cranberry, and you're a Brotherhood of Steel, let's say you owned all 3. I think that's Dabney, you got the H1Z1, where it was on the bottom, the disposal site, and I think it's one more. Can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's Bogtown. If you owned all 3 of them as a group, say Brotherhood of Steel, let's say, and you owned all that, you owned Cranberry. Like your group owned Cranberry. And if you were aligned with that group in that server, you owned it. So if you were there, you got not only the better resources from the workshops, because the workshops now, their resources are, they're junk. It's horrible. But if you own that faction ways and you own that area, the resources should have been a bonus. Like they should have been where, if you were farming for wood, you were farming for, aluminum, whatever it may be, or uranium, etc. You should get bigger bonuses. So the larger your group held a territory, it should be bonus. Say 3 times, for example, just as a bare bones, out of pocket kind of idea. 3 times the resources from every workshop you owned in that area. So if you own Cranberry, you own Bogtown, you own Disposal Site, and you own Dabney, When you went to Dabney and you were farming wood, for example, you should get 3 times the rewards of the output of wood minimum for owning that workshop. And anybody in your group could take those resources. Now, that would be a different thing because you'd probably have to balance a little bit where people couldn't take everything, join a group, take everything, leave server. But that's a different question for a different time. Those are called balancing issues, and that happens later on when you make a game. So, possibly, probably be a leader who would divvy out the rewards, and that'd be a trusted person. But like I said, that's more of a thing after the fact. That's something you learn as you go, and you balance as you go. Another thing it would have done, if you had a group warfare, as I would call it, coin it as, you would have a better balanced game, a massively balanced, because you would be forced to balance the game. You couldn't have somebody run around with auto X and being pretty much unkillable by anything else in the game except for a bash mini now. Just like 2 seasons ago, the auto X had no competitors whatsoever. Nothing even come close to the auto X. If you were a handmade player and you were in, and say you were in PA, and the other guy was with auto X and he was in PA, you had no chance. Like zero. You were never gonna kill him you were never gonna kill him with a handmade. It's impossible. Not with somebody who even had a fraction of a sense about how PvP worked. But if you were all PvP centric and the game was surrounded by that, which was, like I said, that's the way it was implemented when the game first started, you would have a better balance of weapons. It didn't matter if you was using a hunting rifle, plasmacaster, auto axe, 10mm pistol. Everything would be balanced around the fact that it killed people. And another thing, when it comes to PvP, if you're not aware of this, if you're a PvE player, everybody in PvP, everybody that I know of, that are especially legit players, we don't have to buff to destroy a boss in this game because we understand how the mechanics work really, really well, and we understand how to kill bosses in literally a fraction of the time most people have said. Because I've had people come to me and they had 3 railways, it's been a few seasons back, and they killed Earl like a mint 10 seconds, which is a good time. Nothing wrong with that. But I squashed their time solo without PA and unyielding. I mean, I literally killed it just as fast as they did. I killed it in a minute and 8 seconds. And that was in a PvP build, by the way. It's all PvPers do. But like I said, when it comes to factions and making this game better, you would have better balance. You would have more to do. And Fallout First and all that stuff could still exist for the company. So from a business side, it still would work. They would still make their money. And I don't think they would make more money. Because if you're a PvPer, you understand when you PvP, it is resource heavy. And I know other people that don't know about PvP, they're like, well, yeah, quantums. Yeah, being quantums is part of it, but that is not the majority of it. I PvP'd at the start with no quantums. All I had was supers and coffee if I was lucky. And I was killing people without PA while they're in PA. Quantum is not an end all. You can have 2,000 qualms on you. It does not mean you're going to survive. Because if you understand the mechanics of the game and how to fight, it doesn't matter. If they don't and you do, it doesn't matter. It makes no difference. But my idea was to have it faction based. The workshops control areas, and if you own that area, you owned everything in the area. When it comes to events, if you're in Cranberry and you drop the queen, the only people who can be in that area without being aggroed is the people who own that area. Like, say, the Brotherhood of Steel again, let's use them as an example. They own all of the stuff in Cranberry. They drop queen, right? They want to kill the queen. They want to get the flux. They want to get repair kits, etc. Special weapon drop. The Raiders, let's say they own Savage Divide. They say they own all the workshop in Savage Divide, right? If they enter that area, they were automatically aggro. Automatic. And then vice versa for them when they went to Savage Divide. So you would be forced to work together for your own resources and the events and the rewards for those events and the control of that area. I think that would have made a lot more longevity in the game. A lot more. There would be a lot more to do besides what we have right now. And to expand on that, when you control the area, You control everything in that area, except the workshops, etc. But if somebody was to try to invade your territory, they're also automatically aggro. So if you were a lone raider or a lone BOS and you walked in the Savage Divide, as the raiders own that, you would automatically be aggro to everybody in that territory that was associated with whatever faction that may be, i.e., the raiders in this example. Another thing to expand even more on that, the sections of the map, whether it be the Mire, the Savage Divide, or Cranberry Bog, the Forest, the Ash Heap, etc., Toxic Valley, they're already separated on the map. The borders already exist. And anybody who's played this game long enough knows those borders exist. They know where they start, know where they stop, pretty much within probably 15 or 20 meters. You know where they start and stop at. Use the landscape changes. I mean, visually, the landscape changes so you can understand that too. So that would create more faction-based fighting, more faction-based help. So you would, like the ones that already exist, the factions that we all know exist, they exist for everybody. PvE, PvP, everybody, it already exists. So that would create a more longevity because you would have team play and a survival game that would obviously benefit from team play. You would need to help each other to survive the apocalypse, of the survival of what we've been through in the game's own lore. And that's how the other games work to a degree. But, I think that would be a lot better way to play the game. I believe this would have worked a lot better for the players. It would have worked better for Bethesda. They probably would have made more money because the resources would be very strict, and you would have to work together to make these resources. And some people could buy boosters, or they get a free amount of free, but they pay for a certain amount of resources, or they pay for a certain amount of healing, or etc. Because if you went in the forest and you couldn't make healing salves and you're out of stems, I mean, you could do the events in your area to generate right away to event stems and stuff like that, but you couldn't participate in the events in the other part unless you want to run the risk of dying. So, but that would be more involved. You would have people way more involved in the game. They would have more things to do. I mean, I don't really see, there is negatives, obviously, probably cons that I'm not aware of because we don't have that. But I honestly believe it would have been a lot better game because the game we have now is just war down survival that is so easy to do. It's so simple to beat the game, and it's so simple to just play the game. You don't have to have God rolled armor, the perfect armor, to play this game and just not die. You don't have to, if you're a PvE player, you don't have to have full overeater, full endurance, full sentinel, and full rejuvenated or reflective. You're not going to be killable. Like, I'm sorry, you're just not going to die. Like I said, unless you fall on a fissure site, and if you're not a ghoul and you run into the bomb area without PA on, and you're just getting soaked up with rats, and you're bloody, for example, that's the only way you're going to die. But that's the conclusion. That's pretty much the gist of my own ideals and how I believe the game will be implemented better. And as a side note, I want to express this fully to make sure people understand this. I don't hate PvE players, and most PvP players don't hate PvE players. We don't really care. We have this overdone joke that's been around before I even played. We call you foodies because you're easy to kill, because you don't participate in the way we play. So therefore, it makes it extremely easy to kill you because we're used to our loadouts, our cards, our armor and stuff to be dedicated to fighting players, not fighting robots or fighting mole miners, etc. Deathclaws, because we know even if we have assassin's armor, it ain't gonna matter. They're still not going to. The PvE thing is still not going to kill us. I've literally been running around in assassin's armor for over a year, and I've never died to PvE unless it was like a joke or a fissure site. It was something, it was never intentional. I literally stood still and not died for 20 minutes. Come back, just AFK, doing something IRL, real life counts. So obviously you got stuff to do sometimes. And I come back and I was just fine. Born Survivor done kicked in 2 or 3 times. I was fine. Stem packs were running just fine. So, like I said, I believe this game could have been implemented a lot better. There could have been more to do. The company would have possibly made more money because there is no game like 76. When it comes to online, there's no game. No game even comes close to what the interactions, the things you can acquire in this game. There's no game that comes close. No game, period. There's nothing like it. But at the same time, even though there's nothing like it, it's still not a good version of what it is. Like the version we have now is not good. It's just not. The only reason why I play this game is because I met some good people when I first started playing who were mostly were PvEers to begin with, because I played with people called, one dude name was Gaz, Tiny and Tina, um, Athena, I can't remember her gamer tag, and then her husband Johnny Mac. Great people, played with them for a long time. They made the game enjoyable because I played with them, I hung out with them, talked with them, I enjoyed hanging out with them just as much, if not more, than playing the game itself. I was also very low level ish. I was around the 200 range. I didn't really understand the mechanics that well at that time. I thought I did, and I've run into that a lot. People will be a lower level and they believe they already know the game, and they honestly don't. And I've also met, which to be fair, they're fine because they're low level, and it's justified for them not to know. But I've also ran into people who are level 2, 3,000 who I'm they don't understand the game. They just really don't. They don't understand the mechanics of the game. They don't understand how to make yourself strong. And this is no shade at like Angry Turtle West Tech. That's the reason why they upload videos about that. And I've even uploaded my own video about my AutoX build. And I've had people come to me and say, well, your build, I think it could be better. Or whatever. That's fine. I mean, if there's a better way for you to use it and it works better for you, have at it, bro. Have at it. There's nothing wrong with that. But I promise you, when it comes to killing people and PvE, you're not going to beat my AutoX build for AutoX. You're not. You're just not. I can say that with full confidence because I've only had one person that I really just couldn't beat all the time, and that was Lethal Farms. Everybody else, I'm not saying they're bad or anything like that. They couldn't do damage to me. It's just that, my build was better. I moved better. I fought better. And that was it. There was nothing against them personally. They learned. A lot of guys I've taught in the game how to fight better, how to move better, because for some reason, when I joined PvP, when I kind of started getting myself in it, nobody shared anything. Nobody would share anything. They wouldn't share how to get, your heals, your quantums, your bobbleheads, your magazines, nothing. They wouldn't share a thing. They just kept tight-lipped because they didn't want the competition. They didn't want competition, is what it was. They didn't want to have anybody on an even playing field because no offense, I mean, if it pisses people off, that's fine. You didn't want competition. If you were in that area and you thought that if somebody knew what you knew, then you didn't want competition. And I try to throw shade at somebody, but that's just the truth. If you don't want people to learn the game like you do or have the knowledge you do, you don't want them to be on an equal footing with you. And because that would give you more of a chance to lose. And there's some people who play this game and any other game in the world, whether it be Apex Legends or COD, for example, Fortnite, Battle Royales, obviously, but more competitive, especially when it comes to KD, etc. But, you obviously don't want them to know the meta or how to use the meta exactly, because I know people have this misunderstanding that if you use the meta build, you are automatically the strongest person in the room, and that's not true. But I'll say that for a different video, because as the meta shifts, how you fight shifts too. Who you fight matters a lot too. Because if I fought, say, example, another good PvPer right off the top of my head, UDW Yeehaw, or Give Me Them Caps, is his other name, is off. A very good PvPer, very good, and I have a lot of respect for that guy. Stay out of drama, he just liked to fight, so I always gave him his props. He was definitely at the top for a long time with auto axis. Definitely. Like, I give him his flowers. He worked for that, and he just enjoyed fighting. And I, myself, and Lethal, and Piff, etc., that's what we did it because we like fighting. And then when the fighting got so bad to the point where you have stackers, you have, I know people who's actually use lag switch. I don't think I personally know any of them. I've been told there's lag switchers. I think I've seen some people that kind of did funky things, but if they do, cool. But, those guys, they don't matter. Stackers and lag switchers don't matter. Nobody in the PvP community, and I'm pretty sure nobody in the PvE community really cares. We don't care if you're gonna kill a legit PvP. We don't care. Okay, cool. That's like saying you're playing COD and you're using walls, and you beat the best player in COD or even the top 10 in COD. And you're like, oh yeah, I beat him. No, you didn't. The computer beat him. You didn't beat him. You didn't do anything. Like you just moved around a little bit, and the game itself did it for you. You didn't do anything. But let's move on from that. I don't even care about it. Honestly, I don't believe stackers should get any recognition for anything. They're pretty much redundant. They're like trolls, but failed trolls. They're so their intelligence, their charisma is pretty much non-existent. And the reason they do that stuff is because they don't know how to troll properly. So they cheat. And I've seen people say this. Like really, I've seen stackers say this. Oh well, I do it because I troll. No, you're not trolling. You're just no. It's not trolling. Trolling is when you get interactions. You can't troll somebody by standing silently in the corner. That's not trolling. That's just creepy and weird, which is how most PvPers, I guess, visualize stackers. It's just weird. We don't. You're not in the conversation. You're like Katie Inkwell. You don't matter at all. But like I said, I believe the implications of the. I believe the way they could have implemented it from the start, when people would fight over the ammunition factory because they needed ammo, and they were forced to do that. I think that would be a way better way it would have gone. And I understand that this game was forced to be casual because Bethesda knew that that's the way they would make their money. And at business standpoint, I can understand that. I don't agree with it, but I understand it. I get it. Um, this game should have been so much more. It could have been so much better. It could have had more longevity. It could have been more interactional. You could have had people. You could have had interactions with people you would never known, and it wouldn't be near as toxic as it is now. And another thing that people don't seem to understand as well, or refuse to acknowledge, PvPers are not toxic. There are PvPers who are toxic, just like I have met some extremely toxic PvEers. And I'm talking about wanting to know your home address, or somebody who goes in area chat who starts talking about somebody's, their kids, their actual kids, not like in Fallout, like kids, role play or some goofy shit like that. I mean, I'm talking about their real kids, like just sick shit. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that most players in Fallout are very casual, and that's fine. But realize that the only reason why you're allowed to play this game the way you are is because Bethesda bended to the rules, or the declaration of people who didn't want to stay true to Fallout, that didn't want to stay true to its lore, and didn't want to stay true to how the game's supposed to feel. You're never supposed to play a Fallout game and feel safe all the time. I've never played a game. I played 3, 4, New Vegas, played the crap out of New Vegas, actually. The only time I felt safe-ish was when I got to a really high level, like rank 30, for example, before the DLCs come out in New Vegas, and I felt overpowered. But if I got ganged up by 5 death claws, it got hectic really quick. That's the way I look at Fallout. It shouldn't be made where it's a joke. It's not even hard. Like, it should be difficult to do. And that's where I think they massively failed with Fallout 76 in general. And that's where they completely ruined the game. And the only reason why the game survived is because the trading is possible for real money, and you have large groups of friends who stick together and play together almost daily. And then you also have people who just casually play the game. They don't, they just here to goof off and chill because they're big Fallout fans. And hey, cool. I mean, you have every right to do that. I just don't believe you should exist in this game. Personally, I just don't. And I know I'm probably gonna get hate for this, but I'm sorry. I don't care. I don't think PvE should exist in this game. It should have never existed, because the game was sold as a PvP centric game from the very start. That's the reason why the PvP symbol pops up when you take over a workshop. If you're in passive mode and you go to a workshop and you press your button. Make sure you go activate the claim workshop. It says you will be activating PvP and other players can attack you. The reason why that exists, the reason why passive mode now exists, is because this game was not PvE. It was not PvE when it started. And you can fight me all day you want to, but history tells a different story, and even Bethesda tells a different story. Bethesda disagrees with you. Now, today, they agree with you, but that's the reason why, is because they know if they push toward PvP, they'll lose money. They'll lose a large number of player base because for so many years, the player base has been PvE. It's been centralized back to PvE instead of PvP, which was the implication from the very start. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist. I know this has been a long video, and hopefully you made it through majority of it. But I want to say thanks for watching, obviously. And if you have any ideas, or if you agree with my ideas, or you have more to add on to it, hey man, drop a comment. Let me know. Drop me a line on PSN. Let me know. I'm happy to talk about this kind of stuff. This kind of stuff is like what interests me a lot, like especially when it comes to like gaming, especially. I mean, other things obviously in real life, whether it be my company or my job or I don't care, man. I love to understand things fully, and I like to see things be the best they possibly can be, like the best experience, whether it be a customer of mine or it doesn't matter what it is. I like things to be exceedingly better. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy, and I hope I didn't make you give you a headache too much for talking. But like I said, see you on the next one, guys. Appreciate it. Y'all have a good one.
I saw 742 dicks that day. Y'all that better not go in your video, I swear to
I
God.
say you really should be careful what you're saying, Eric.
Put it in the video.